Hey everybody, if you are watching this video, it means you've reached the point where you have gotten to explore a few of the tools in InDesign and have worked on your bio page a little bit. Hopefully you finished it and posted it to your blog. I'm doing this lesson via video so that those who are still working on those, learning those basic InDesign tools can take their time doing so. And you guys can kind of work at your own pace with this. We will be doing an activity together once you guys watch this video, depending on how our timing works. So what this is and what I'm about to show you, it's a presentation that Sarah Nichols, another yearbook advisor, and I used at a summer camp called Media Now this summer. We taught a yearbook class together. I give her credit for this presentation because she really did piece it together. But I'm using it because I think it really does have some fundamentals that you guys will need to know about design. So you will see in this presentation a lot of yearbook spreads, but please don't read too far into that because these basic principles really do apply, I think, across the board to newspaper and magazine and in some ways even web. So we're going to go over some terminology and I'm going to show you a few examples, and then I am going to flip over to a few things online to show you as well. You may want to take notes while I go through this. You guys are going to be quizzed over some of this terminology combined with some of those parts that we've been labeling, like the folio and the byline and the cut line, because that was more like labeling the pieces of the spread. This is more like the design elements of the spread. So I'm going to get started here. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I am going to go through the ones that I think are most important for you guys right now as beginners. Here we go. Okay, so the first word we're going to talk about is dominance. You've heard me say this before. There's your definition right there. It's to anchor the layout, draw attention to one element by making it somewhat larger than the other. So dominance is really important because it draws your eye in. So I'm going to show you these examples on this spread. You can see here on this spread, the dominant image is clearly this holiday cheer photo right here. And because of that, it kind of makes this whole holiday cheer coverage piece the dominant element. So everything you design should have some type of dominant. You're probably going to have dominant coverage, but within that dominant coverage, you're going to have a dominant photo or a dominant graphic or something like that. So just always remember that I'm going to encourage you, and as you move on with design, to make sure that that dominant element is included. You want to draw your readers in somehow. Here's another example. This photo collection here would be your dominant, and within the photo collection, it's also important to have a dominant image. So we've got a collection of photos here, but this one right here in the middle is clearly the dominant. It's larger and it stands out. And sometimes people confuse this because they just try to make things a little bit larger. In order to truly be a dominant, it really does have to be 2 to 3 times larger than everything else, and I think you'll see a huge difference in your designs if you do that. Okay, contrast is our next word. Contrast basically just means there's some major difference on the elements of a page or spread to make things noticeable. So I'm going to show you some examples of those. In this case, we're looking at contrast in color, so you can clearly see that that yellow pops out. We're looking at black and white, which is rare now because we're lucky enough to be able to use color all the time. But the black and white, the black, white, and then the bright yellow really makes that yellow pop. And there's clearly something that the reader needs to see there, like this quote on the left or these words within the story. So it really just pops out, which is what you want. And this one we have contrast in size and number. So we're looking at a couple of different things here. We're looking at these photos compared to this one large dominant photo over here. And in some cases, we're also looking at like numbers specifically, like the number of people or numbers on a spread that can pop out in some way. But you just want 2 elements that are contrasting in some way. And if we're looking seriously at numbers here, the numbers on their jerseys are what make them different in this case. And this one we're looking at contrast in shape, which is really the shape of these photos here. So you'll notice that some of them are strong verticals and some of them are strong horizontals. That contrast is really important so that you're not putting a bunch of the same direction or size of elements on a spread. And then this one's going to be your contrasting content. So we're going to talk about something called mods in a little bit. So we want to make sure that all of our Mods, as long as it makes sense, contains different information so that we're giving our readers enough content to look at. So we really want contrasting elements. Doesn't necessarily mean opposite, like comparing. It just means we're providing different things for our readers to look at. Okay, the next one is rhythm, which a good way to think of rhythm, I think, is really just repetition and repeating size, shape, and style, just like it says, so that things tie together. You're going to see a lot of rhythm in font. You're going to see a lot of rhythm in shape, and also a lot of rhythm in color. So here you'll see we've got some rhythm here with these 3 words with periods. You'll notice that our fonts are the same, which is really important in design. You even see it with the numbers. Here we've got some rhythm where those fonts are like jetting into the photos there. And then it also, so you've got it jetting into the photo there, and then you've got it jetting into the photo down here. That one element alone is enough to give the spread some rhythm. Okay, here we're also looking at font. We're also looking at the color green. You'll see that kind of strung throughout. And then these pictures here at the bottom, how they're kind of in a row, and they're similarly sized, which is fine because you have others on the spread that contrast. But that really gives the spread some rhythm. And again, the font as well, and the spacing in between those photos. And then this one, you've got the same amount of space in between all of those photos, and then you're weaving this purple and the yellow in between all of them. Color is, I think, one really great way to bring rhythm in, and you're going to notice that right away once you start learning about these design elements. You're going to see it on the spread really quickly. Some of these I'm just going to have you look at so you can kind of see the elements that are repeating on a spread. So in this case, it's the pictures, it's the color blue, the way the countries are highlighted in blue on all of these like text blurbs. Okay, and then unity I think is really similar to rhythm. Essentially, rhythm leads to unity. So just when I flip through these slides, just look for the ways that everything is connected on a spread, and I'll try to point some of those out to you as well. You're going to see color in this one with your yellows and your dark blues. Same thing here. You see it, in this case, the type going through the words here. You see that consistently across this page. And then we're going to talk about alignment. We're going to talk about lining things up so that your eye flows kind of correctly, like in the order it should. And you want things to really line up in a way that it flows together smoothly. So if you'll notice, this is so specific, but even like a line like this, like going right across the bottom of a few pages, that's what you want. You want that eye line to go directly across or directly down. Don't make your readers work to see how things line up. Create the line for them. Same thing here. You'll see these line up. You see this line up across, this line up. It's almost just like making sure that everything is separate enough that people know what to look at. Just flipping through some of these for you so you can see. Okay, and I think the only other thing that I want to point out to you right now is, I'm sorry, I'm flipping quickly, is modular design. So I'm really going to be talking to you guys about modular design because it's how we design in our publications and how most do, so that we can create that rhythm and make sure that our spacing stays consistent and make sure that our elements stay really where they're meant to be in a grid of space. So basically what modular means, it means that your packages, which is like your content that you're covering, are designed in rectangles or square shapes. So I'm going to flip over here for a second so you can see this. So this is an example of how modular design begins, but you're going to see this would be like an InDesign document. You'll see all of these grids here. Within each of these grids is how you design your mods. So your mods would be everything fitting in a square. So here's your mod, here's your mod, and here's your mod. And we'll do some activities where you guys kind of point out where the mods are on a spread so you can see. I was going to pull up some North Star issues so you could see these. And you'll notice that each mod has its own piece of coverage in it. So sometimes you have a whole page as a mod. Sometimes you could fit this picture as a mod, your headline as a mod, and then your story as a mod. And then over here you've kind of got this whole mod over here on the left, and then this whole mod on the bottom. So if I was designing, I could take a rectangle and highlight all of these things and say I have roughly 3 mods on a spread, if you're calling that full dominant package a mod. Same thing here. So you've got the picture, then you've got this super vertical mod here, you've got a horizontal mod here, and a large horizontal mod here. So your job as the designer is sometimes just to like draw the spacing in rectangles and then figure out what you're going to fit in those rectangles so that everything lines up. And an example like this, like we still have a mod, and it's okay to make things so that they don't just touch the edge of the mod. Like we can still create curved shapes and curved graphics. We just have to make sure when we're putting elements together that those elements are formed in mods. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to flip back to that presentation again. I'm going to show you another example, but here you can see we've got our mod here, we've got our mod here, rectangle, we've got our mod here. Oops. And if I flip down one, it's another example. We've got a mod here, we've got a mod here, we've got a mod here, we've got a mod here. So you should be able, if something is modular, to draw rectangles around it just like I am right now. So we're going to work on that a lot, but just to recap, a few things that we talked about to pay close attention to. We talked about dominance, having a dominant. We talked about contrast. We talked about rhythm. We talked about unity. And we also talked about alignment, and then we ended with modular or mods, which is kind of where I'm going to leave you here. So I will tell you your next step after this, but this should give you a good basis to jump off from.